Hi, I'm DJ Ware. On this episode of the CyberGizmo, I'm going to be looking at OpenSUSE Leap 15.2 as a possible replacement for CentOS 8. Right after this. I reviewed an earlier release of this. I think it was a release candidate back in July, I think. But that was the desktop version. So if you want to go back and look at that, be my guest. I did not cover YAST 2 in that review, but I am going to do that today. So the first thing we need to do, of course, is to install it. Now you have a couple of choices. You can use Tumbleweed, but that is a rolling release. Or you can use Leap, which has a couple of different ways of installing it. So let's go and look at those. So the first thing you're offered is a network image or a DVD image. And this one, in my experience from the US, it takes a while to install it over the network. I'm assuming that it's going back to the home servers in Germany. So I don't know that, but it does take quite a bit longer than to do it with the DVD. So I went ahead and downloaded that image for today. I do have this one available. I did test it, but I was having problems with the network. I do run pfSense, and pfSense is really, really finicky about, especially when you're running intrusion detection software. It is really finicky about the host and the type of traffic that comes back. If they hit one of the rules, then it'll just cut the network connection, and I was running into that a lot with the network image. So I'm just gonna do this one, and as always, I've already done this. I'm not gonna do it again. It'll be a long download. So yeah, let's just go ahead and get started then. You can, OpenSUSE as a server has been around, probably a little longer than Red Hat actually. They are one of the founding members of Linux. So their history goes all the way back to the beginning. They are a very stable release, and if you want to pursue an enterprise version of the software where you have full support, they do sell that, similar to the way that Red Hat licenses their product, their enterprise, their Linux enterprise server. So if you want to do that, you can, and then you'll be entitled to full support. Whereas on OpenSUSE, you can install the server, but you are the support unless you can find somebody to help you in the forum. So I've already got a working. I'm going to do this the way I did it the last time. I'm going to go ahead and create a VM, and we'll just go ahead and call it that. And again, go to my NAS, and there's the .NET. I want this one though for today, just to keep things the same. We'll do the UEFI, and I'll put it on local VM. Now this will install a Btrfs partition. Same here. Oops, you know what I forgot to do? Let's go back and get that. That's good. We'll bump that up. I'm doing this in exactly the same way. My intention, as I said before, was to actually put together some requirements and then test each of the distributions against those requirements and see how well they came out. Now, if you're using CentOS and you have some requirements beyond a normal Docker server that you want me to include in the test, just include them in the comments below. And I'll make a list and we'll add them on. So I'm waiting for it to build out. This is getting to be a long list of servers here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start this up. And yeah. And one of the differences that I noticed, I'm going to keep it from just taking off on me, but on the network install, it goes ahead. The default is boot from hard drive, whereas the DVD, the default is installation. So I'm sure that will change once I've actually installed the image, and I'm pretty sure it does. You know, this reminds me of when Fedora first came out. This was kind of all the rage, the way that Linux would show their boot screens. Red Hat did this, Fedora did this, OpenSUSE did this, Debian did this. I don't know if Ubuntu ever did or not. I don't know if they fell into that this rolling kind of thing. But it's kind of nice to see that nostalgic loading again. There's not very many distributions that do that anymore. In fact, this is the only one that I know of that still does. Okay, so at this point, it's pretty much just let it do its thing until it'll stop periodically to ask you questions. So I'll just let it do that. One thing I will go check real quick and see if the snort blocker is taking something. Oh, I'd keep an eye on that. Okay, so updating the repositories. It's just going to kind of bounce around. All right, so now it's going to ask me to read the agreement. And then click next. Yeah, I do. And that's probably be where I get the first hit. At least I did the last time, was when it went after these, the non-OSS repo. It flagged it. So if you run a pfSense and you have snort turned up to 11 and you're blocking, you may run into some issues with that. So you might want to keep an eye on it. If all of a sudden the install just stalls on you, that's because the server that it was trying to contact is no longer being allowed. So far, so good. So you have a couple of choices for servers. The transactional server isn't what you think. It isn't like a database transaction type server. This is an immutable root file system, similar to the way that Silverblue. Now, they're not implemented the same way, but the function is similar to what Fedora Silverblue does, in that any updates you make, you have special commands you have to perform in order to do that. I believe it's called transactional update, and then you put in the package install or update commands after that. And then it goes ahead and does it, but nothing actually will happen until you reboot the system. Very similar to Silverblue in that aspect, but they are implemented differently. So if that's the kind of server you want, where everything operates kind of in a protected jail, then by all means go that route. But I'm just going to do a normal server today because I have not been using a transactional server on the others. And so it'd be kind of unfair to compare the two and potentially put one of them at a disadvantage. So I don't want to do that. So let's just do server. So if you're wondering why I'm not choosing the transactional server, that's why. Okay, so it's asking me about the partitioning. I'm just going to let this go. Because this is ButterFS, it will go ahead and break it out. Okay, so we need to do this. We need to put it on the right time zone. Keyboard sticking a bit. Probably time for it to be cleaned. Okay, I think we're all good here, so we'll go ahead and start the install. Yeah, and there's a couple of them that just showed up, so yeah. All right, so I'll be back, and we'll continue with this in a moment. So I'm all done. Oop. Hello? Oh, it went ahead and rebooted on its own. I was like, what? Wait a minute, I didn't touch it. I didn't break it. All right, so we'll go ahead and boot back in. It took about 5 minutes or so. Yeah, about 5 minutes. Not bad. I'll go ahead and put this back over here since we're done with that nonsense. Okay, so it's ready for me to log in, and I'm just going to log in with my regular user. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is so one thing that you'll need to know about sudo on this side is that it is always going to be whatever the user is that you set up. It's going to be that password for the sudo, not root. So even if I come in, if I create another user and I give them sudo privileges, then if they sudo, they have to know the password for the administrator, which I hope there's, I mean, I know I can reconfigure it to do it differently, and so I probably will do that. It's not good to execute as another user. I mean, anyway. So let's go and take a look at YAST. Let's spell it right first. YAST2. Okay, so you'll notice that it's the text version. If you can, you could install the server components under a desktop, but I wouldn't recommend using a GUI on a server for two reasons. One, I've talked about this before, that now I don't know, I know that SUSE has Wayland support. I don't know if it's all of the desktops that use Wayland or if it's a combination. I just haven't dug into it enough. But if you're running the old X server, you have a potential for a breach because the security in that is pretty lax. If it happens to be, those ports happen to appear out on your public side of your network, you'll have visitors, definitely. So I guess the first thing we want to do is check. Let's just go down through it and we'll work through the software. So the first thing we want to do is get up to date. I'm just going to go ahead and accept it and let it run through. There isn't anything that I can see. The next one is package management. So if you want to install packages, you can do it here. I can't see how to do this other than one at a time, but I'll go ahead and put in HTOP just to show you how it works. And now I got to go all the way down here and hit accept. That was pretty, unless it was already out there. Maybe it was. Let's see, let's do get. Oh, you know what? I need to do a search on it first, don't I? That's what my problem is. I have to get it up first and then go down here and look. Just for plain old get. For some reason, I'm not seeing it. Get core. We'll see what it installs. Yeah, I think I might just do that from the command line. But let's go back and put HTOP back in there. There we go. we'll go, oops, I canceled it. I'm not used to YAST. I'm not used to using any GUI of any kind, or a TUI. Okay, so it was done. So we'll go ahead and finish that. You have some add-on products here, which you need to have the URL for those. And so, yeah, we don't need that. We'll just cancel that. Media check, I don't need that. And then these are your software repos that you currently have installed and enabled. You can then turn them on or turn them off. If you want additional ones, you can do that. So let's see. I don't need anything. So we'll cancel that. And then with system, we have bootloader, date and time, kernel settings. This is the language settings, network settings. Take a look at that. So it looks like you can look at the overview, set your host name and your DNS server, set up your routing, and of course then you can also you can also edit your, so if you want to make a static, okay, so I would need to fill this out. So, and in my case, I don't want to do that. So, your partitioning, if you had additional drives to it, partition, but just remember that if you run this on a running system and you pick up the drive that you're booted from, you will destroy it. Probably in all likelihood, you will destroy it. Services manager, you can see all of the services that are running in the system. And from here, you can stop them. It even gives you the state. But this is nice. I like this, where you have kind of this at your fingertips. Yes, really abort. Sysconfig editor. Desktop, hardware, network, other system. Let's see what's in. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and abort that. And look at hardware. It's actually probing for. It's like, I wonder if it'll get beneath the virtual machine. We'll see if it does. I doubt it. It'll probably just show me the virtualized devices, but we'll see. Yeah, it's seeing the virtual. Yeah, QEMU. CPU. So yeah, you can look through all of this stuff too if you want. Printer, keyboard layout, if you need to change that. If you want to set up and configure additional services like LDAP and Kerberos, mail server, NFS client, all that stuff. It has Samba, although I wouldn't recommend putting up a TFTP server. Not on a public server, not on a public facing system. AppArmor, firewall. This uses, I think, firewall D. Yep, it's using firewall D. I can already tell by the zones. So let's see what we got in home. So yeah, you can just go through and configure which ones you want to turn on. And then there's also a section up here for block. So if you want to do that as well. And then and then you have your trusted, your public, and your work. So yeah, you can have different zones set up with different rules. I don't think I have virtualization turned on to have it allow it to have virtualization inside of a VM. So I don't think that will help. It will work. So there's the release notes, and then display the system log. I wonder if there's. I thought I saw a place in here where you can set up how often you rotate, because there are, of course, there are certain rules with the new standards from Europe that you only can keep logs for 14 days, and then you have to archive them for only up to 7 or something like that. So I believe there. I thought I saw something in here about that, but maybe I'm wrong. So that's yes. So I'm just going to go ahead and use Zyper. Let's go ahead and get the rest of them. I think NeoFetch is already there. I'll get glances, and I'll also get get. Yep, that's good. I should have also done an update too, just to make sure. I might do that as well. I'm not sure how old this DVD is, so I'm sure there's been updates since then. Yep, got me again. I'd be back. This might be a while. All right, so let's take a look and see what. Now I have been running a few things. 142 meg of memory in use. 30 tests, 25 threads are running. So and there's not much system load that I can see. I mean, I see it coming up and doing checks on stuff every once in a while, but it's pretty lightly loaded at the moment. That will change. Let's see what the buffers and all that takes. About almost 400 meg, 392 meg, according to glances. And one thing I like about, and I noticed that Debian was doing this too, is they have disabled. Now, normally in glances, there's a couple of options that you can display your public-facing IP address. And so I like the fact that they default to not showing it, so I don't have to turn it off. But I noticed a couple of the other distributions were doing that as well, and I appreciate that. As you would with any server like this. So I can watch the server load by CPU as well. And yeah, it's very light. I mean, it's using about 10% of memory that I've allocated to it, so that's nothing. At the price of memory right now, that is nothing. Okay, so the other thing to do is, of course, we need to go and do our Linus run. So let's do that. One thing I will tell you that none of my scripts are set up to handle SUSE, so I won't be able to do any of my automation to do the hardening for this. So yeah, I did not set it up, and so I would have to go do that. It wouldn't be that hard to do. Just need to do it. Just do the work. Oops. Need to have the period in front. There we go. Here, I'll fix that one. I'll just hide it and ignore it for now. They eventually clear off the block. I mean, the blocks do eventually clear off. They take time because it's a cron that runs that does it. So Ooh, saw a little bit of red. 64. You know what I didn't do? Let me just go ahead and clear that one while I'm in here, and I'll go back over there. All right, so I need to know the IP address. It is 112. All right. I don't have a pi. Hang on. Put that in right. Okay. So I can scroll back. Console Windows new, not unless you remember to do more. What I wanted to see was if I had any warnings at all. Nope. Disable cord up. That's a new one. Most of the ones, apparently, oh yeah, that's all normal. Minimum age, unused kernel modules, USB, firewire. So in this case, it's only apparently, well, it could be an error in the configuration. I have seen that before. And then, of course, yeah, all that stuff, which I did get fixed, by the way. I need a banner. Need systat, yeah. Audit D I saw was installed already. So yeah, that's not too bad. That's pretty normal. So one one thing. Let's see. I don't know. I haven't used SUSE in years. So let me see if I can find the equivalent of an info. Help, show, info. There's info. Okay. One thing I want to know about is how old this is. Oh, wow. That is ancient. 3.12. The current version is 8.3. So, yeah, that's not even compatible with my network. that wouldn't even work. That's too old. So I'll have to use their repos from the Gluster FS. Most of the distros with Gluster usually are around 7 something. Not quite sure why. Maybe there's just not a lot of demand for Gluster on SUSE. I don't know. The other one to look at is Docker. See how old that is. 1903. It's a little old. But maybe they call it Moby now. Let's see. Nope. I know a number of them have gone over to the name Moby, but they haven't. Yeah. So I'm gonna put this one into the hopper for eval. I'm not gonna do that here tonight, but I will come up with a list of requirements that I have, and then if you have some that you want to include, send me a comment below. I'll add them to the list, and we'll just evaluate all 4 of these: Debian, Ubuntu Server, OpenSUSE, and I haven't got to Blue Onyx yet. There's a couple of things about Blue Onyx. Blue Onyx's history, just to tell you, is from the old Sun Cobalt rack, RAQ. If I don't know if many of you remember that, but Sun at one time had a standalone web server that was an appliance. It was back in the days of the bubble, the internet bubble, when everybody was trying to get infrastructure put in place really quickly. So Sun put together, they actually purchased a company, Sausalito, I think it was the name of it, and they took those servers and sold them. I know there was tons of them down here in Dallas. I don't know if Rackspace used them, but I know that some of the early ISPs that were downtown in the Infomart, there was just server after server rack of those things. And those were basically a LAMP server. They had, they had Apache, and they had MySQL and PHP and LDAP on them. So, yeah, they could just stand those up as quickly as possible and get them running. I think there was a Japanese firm called Blue Quartz that picked up. And when they decided to, I guess, dump the company, when the bubble burst, they decided to dump the company. So they rolled out all the software into the open source community, and I know that Blue Quartz picked that up for a while. They may still be around. They're over in Japan, and a bunch of enthusiasts that just loved the way the system worked and the way it was configured. And then the Blue Onyx people picked up on that source code, and they ported it off of, I think it was originally, I know there was some AMD K9s, I think, for the x86 side of things, but originally all those Cobalt servers were MIPS-based machines. But of course, they ran on Solaris, and so they took that code and they ported it over to CentOS 8. Well, 5 actually, and then went up to 8. One of the baselines that they use at Blue Onyx, though, is Scientific Linux. Well, and if you remember last year, I think it was in April of 2019, Fermi Labs, which controls the development for Scientific Linux, said they weren't going to develop anymore on the Linux platform, and that they were going to move their new project, Dune, to some new platform. I don't know what that'll be. They haven't announced it yet. But Dune, of course, is it's a underground neutrino experiment, and a deep underground neutrino experiment. Yeah, Dune. And it's between Fermi Labs, which is just outside of Chicago, and I think it's Stanford. So they're going to be shooting neutrinos underground between the two sites and try to understand how they interact and so forth. But be that as it may, Scientific Linux is after. When CentOS 7 goes into life, is dead, because they did not do a port to 8, which I'm sure they're grateful of. But so Rocky is going to be probably the only way that Blue Onyx will be able to continue, and that is not a thing yet. Although I know I heard from some of the I think it was on one of the forums where these guys were all going to Slack. It was on Slack, and it was a bunch of guys trying to recruit to join up with a project, and they had a huge response. So that's very good. So hopefully that will get going, and then we'll see how it goes. I'm going to go ahead and review it. It has some very unique features, but again, with Blue Onyx, there's also a support if you want to purchase it, but there is a free and open source version of it you can use without support as well. So you have an option if you're a corporation and you want the support, you can purchase it from them. And so that's kind of where that is. That's all I've got, I think, for today. I think SUSE is a strong contender. but you know, I'm a little rusty with it, so I'm going to have to relearn it. It's been, gosh, I don't even want to think about it. 23 years since I last used it. So yeah, it's been a while. It was my main driver for a long time. Back in those days when it was really tough to get things to work, but SUSE was never a problem it just seemed like you could install it and it would just work. And that pretty much is, I think, I mean, it's what I saw here today. It just pretty much works. Now the problem is with the firewall, that's got nothing to do with them. That's just snort being snort. And yeah, I probably should either loosen the rules or change the rules or something on the ones that keep flagging on some of these repos. But anyway, I'll probably do that at some point. I'll look at it, but I'm in no hurry. I don't like loosening up anything in a firewall unless there's good reason for it. So anyway, that's all I had. Hope you enjoyed this today. If you did, please like and subscribe. Hope to see you all again real soon. And remember, Friday, no, I'm not going to do a video. So I'll see you on Monday. Bye for now.